Petrified National Forest is located about 100 miles east of Flagstaff along Highway 40 in the Arizona desert. Well, sorry about that, folks. I had to kill the audio because the wind was just too bad. And certain times throughout this video, the wind was up to 70 miles an hour. So I'm going to have to do voiceovers throughout most of this. But here I am in Holbrook. We're charging. And Holbrook's not too far from the north entrance, we're going to go north to south on this trip. And I want to shout out to Josh from Through My Lens. He and Pops took this same trip and had a YouTube video about it. They did a really great job, and we're going to kind of be following in their footsteps as we go through all of the points of interest in the park. And so that's my list there, my yellow sheet of paper of all the things we're going to hit. And let me show you a map of the park and what we're going to do right now. We're going to start at the north entrance off of Highway 40. And first stop is the Visitor Center. Hello, and I'm Ranger Betty. Don't throw your trash. Lilly bought a refrigerator magnet, and we bought a sticker for the back of the van, and I got a trip planner map. Petrified Forest National Park was established in 1906 to protect one of the world's largest and most colorful deposits of petrified wood. The fossil record, contained in this 225 million year old geologic layer, allows a fascinating look at the fauna and flora of the late Triassic period. This colorful sediment, also known as the Painted Desert, spans the 28-mile journey through the park. As you look out over the Painted Desert, you're only seeing a small portion of it. The Painted Desert extends over 7,500 square miles across northeastern Arizona. Because Petrified Forest National Park lies at its heart, the entire park contains the colorful rocks of the Painted Desert. The Painted Desert is about 120 miles long by 60 miles wide and includes all of Petrified Forest National Park. These particular mudstone and sandstone rocks were deposited about 200 million years ago during the late Triassic period. During that time, the supercontinent Pangaea broke apart, eventually forming our present continent. Over the next 180 million years, the rocks were deeply buried, uplifted, and eroded into the badland topography you see today. Beautiful. Tiponi Point. No. Tiponi. Beautiful. Tiponi Point. Native Americans' familiarity with local plants, minerals, rocks, and animals has helped sustain their culture and make their homes in this beautiful and challenging landscape for more than 13,000 years. Former inhabitants of the Painted Desert left illustrations of animals important to them at rock art sites throughout the park. Chinde Point?
Chinde.
Or Cindy Point?
Chinde.
Chinde. Okay, so what point are we at?
Lacey. I think it's
Lacey
Lacey.
Point? This 1932 Studebaker marks the spot where famous Route 66 once cut through the park. Petrified Forest is the only national park in the country with a portion of historic Route 66 within its boundaries. The line of telephone poles parallels its alignment through the park. This stretch of Route 66 was open from 1926 until 1958 and was a primary way millions of travelers initially experienced Petrified Forest and the Painted Desert. Okay, babe, where are we going?
We're going to Puerco Pueblo.
Puerco Pueblo. Going to Puerco Pueblo. Whee! Woo, 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 woo.
Town of pigs.
Pigtown, USA.
Pigs down.
So this used to be the old visitor center. And now it's just kind of an information kiosk. It's pretty small. Let's head off to the actual petroglyphs. For thousands of years, indigenous people have used rock faces as a means of communication. Petroglyphs are images, symbols, or designs scratched, pecked, carved, or incised on the surface of rock. Over 100 rooms formed a one-story apartment complex surrounding a central plaza in the village. The building materials for the pueblo were blocks of native sandstone shaped by hand and mortared together with mud. The structures above ground served as living quarters and storage rooms. There were also several subterranean rooms or kivas. The plaza was the center of activity in the village. By examining artifacts and structures found at Puerco Pueblo and their contexts, researchers are able to reconstruct the daily life of its inhabitants. Newspaper rock is one of the highest concentrations of petroglyphs, with more than 600 images. These petroglyphs were created by ancestral people living, farming, and hunting along the Puerco River between 650 and 2,000 years ago. This unique site is part of a larger concentration of images carved along the sandstone bluffs south of the Puerco River, earning it the distinction of an archaeological district on the National Register of Historic Places. So these are called the Tepees. If I could get Lily to slow down. The Tepees. They kind of look like teepees. Change happens, and Blue Mesa is a superb example of that. The petrified log laying on the ground used to be up on a pedestal. You can see in the insert. In 2005, this pedestal log fell from its perch and broke into several pieces. The colorful bands of the Chinde Formation represent ancient soil horizons. While the red, blue, and green layers generally contain the same amount of iron and manganese, differences in color depend on the position of the groundwater table when the ancient soils were formed. Soils where the water table was high, a reducing environment existed due to a lack of oxygen in the sediment, giving the iron minerals in the soil a greenish or bluish hue, such as at Blue Mesa. Okay, go!
That wind is a-blowing!
It's around the section and then Water created Agate Bridge and will one day destroy it. The fossilized tree that now forms Agate Bridge grew in a lush subtropical forest 217 million years ago. This tree died, it washed into a river, and was quickly buried by river sediment, preventing decay. Inevitably, water now carving the small gully under Agate Bridge will cause its collapse. The supportive concrete span constructed in 1917 is a tenuous attempt at preservation. Water will always have its way. Crystal Forest is a fantastic deposit of petrified logs dating back to the dawn of the dinosaurs. During the Triassic period, this area resided on the supercontinent Pangaea at approximately 10 degrees north of the equator, the same latitude as present-day Costa Rica. As Pangaea broke apart, the North American continent drifted northward. Some 218 million years later, Crystal Forest is at 35 degrees north latitude. The Colorado Plateau uplifted slowly over millions of years, raising the parkland about a mile above sea level. This is why the park is so arid today. If Crystal Forest had not moved and uplifted, it would still be a forest, much like the rainforests of Costa Rica. Well, we might ask, what exactly happened to these trees, and what is petrification? Well, during the Triassic period, this spot was the edge of a river channel. Fallen trees crisscrossed the channel and adjacent floodplain. Periodic flooding buried some of the logs beneath layers of silt. Through time, silica-enriched groundwater percolated through the logs, replacing the organic molecules in the wood and creating a replica in quartz. Mineral impurities within the quartz gave the wood its various colors. Iron oxides give you red, yellow, orange, and purple. Manganese oxides, black and gray, and pure quartz, white. How long does it take a tree to petrify? Well, that depends. Environmental conditions like burial rate and amount of silica in groundwater affect speed of petrification. The initial stages may take only decades, but it takes millions of years for the silica molecules change to result in colorful crystalline quartz. The logs buried here during the Triassic period had become solid crystalline quartz by the time T-Rex walked the land 135 million years later. Well, that just about does it. We are very windblown. They said the wind was blowing 70 miles an hour at times, and I believe it. Chapped lips, but smiles on our faces. We had a great time. Any last words, babe?
You must visit.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, that field with all of the petrified trees falling down at Crystal, whatever
Crystal
it is.
Forest.
Crystal Forest, that was pretty cool. Okay, well, bye for now, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.